welcome to Kate's Holistic Healing. We're your interactive show where we walk you through different holistic healing techniques in order to improve your spiritual, physical, and mental well-being. Today, very happy, we have Jeffrey Rose back with us today. Jeffrey is a hypnotist, he's also a nutritionist, and he runs the chapter for starting school later.
School later in Rockland County.
In Rockland County, yes. We want to, and today's program is about sleep, which is something that's extremely important, not as well appreciated as it should be. And luckily, one of the areas that Jeffrey specializes in is in sleep. So let me ask you, Jeffrey, tell me, why is sleep so important, and why do people not get enough?
People aren't prioritizing it. We know about the importance of nutrition. We know about the importance of exercise, but there's really three pillars of health: nutrition, exercise, and sleep. And now it's becoming more known. The information is out there, the science is out there that we need more sleep. And about 40% of adults are not getting the sleep they need. They need biologically 7.5 hours. In fact, throughout 2.5 million years of evolution, adults would typically sleep about 9 hours. So we'd fall asleep soon after sundown, and we'd wake up soon after sunrise. And the light bulb didn't even exist until 1879. Americans here, up until 1900, on the average, slept 9 hours. But for whatever reason today, 7.5 hours is our biological need, and we're getting about 6 hours and 40 minutes a night.
On average?
Yeah. And it's hurting us. Our metabolism is slower, our appetite's increased, our body goes into an emergency mode, conserving energy, and like a drained battery, you're more inclined to reach for starches to pick yourself up.
Right.
You're going to have excess cortisol all day, that stress hormone. If you're using an alarm clock, which is so common now, you're getting a jolt of adrenaline, which would better serve you if there was danger, something to have fear about. And your short-term and long-term memory are impaired, your immune system weakens, your mood is worse, and you age faster, just because you're not getting the sleep you need.
It's just amazing that the body needs it as much as they do. Now, what got you interested in sleep in the first place?
Well, I think from my own personal experiences, in high school, I think I would have been an A student instead of a B student. For about 4 years, I had a paper route, which was a very good thing to do for a teenager to have that responsibility, and I think it was a good thing in that sense. But I would wake up earlier than everybody else would, and I would still go to bed at the same time. And I was just tired in school, and I would be yawning a lot. And the teachers would say, "Are we boring you?" And I wasn't able to focus. I couldn't absorb what I needed to learn as much. And then later on in my practice, 20 years of doing hypnosis with clients to help them to lose weight, to quit smoking, to stop using drugs, whatever issue they were presenting with, I was very concerned that when they came in, they were well rested. Because early on in my career, they would be in that seat, I would be doing hypnosis, they're relaxed, their eyes are closed, they're laying back, and they would fall asleep. So I'd always ask them to come in well rested so they could be sharp and focused and alert when I'm doing that session. But also I would see their impact on sleep for whatever presenting challenge they had. So if they had a challenge, let's say, with public speaking and the fears associated with giving presentations, and they were waking up sleep deprived every day with excess cortisol, then any fear-based thought about that presentation and the people they're speaking to would be more intense. And if they want to lose weight, it was not going to help them too. They're not going to be motivated to exercise as much. When they would exercise, they're not going to feel as good because the next day they're not healing and recovering because they didn't get enough sleep. And it's hard to muster motivation when you're tired all the time.
It's such a problem. I mean, I hear two things. I hear, one, people say they just don't have enough hours in the day to get enough sleep. And then you have other people who complain that when they do go to sleep, they can't fall asleep. So how do you, when you have patients that come to you and they're having difficulty sleeping?
Well, without doing hypnosis, I'm always going to take a good inventory of their lifestyle to see what they might be doing. They might be inadvertently acting as an impediment to them sleeping well.
So what's bad?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things people are doing. First of all, if you're eating late at night, that's not a good thing, especially meat. Animal fat will take about 3 hours to digest. So if you want to fall asleep at 11 p.m., you should finish eating by 11, or forego the meat and eat some beans and seeds or nuts and vegetables or fruits, something like that. Caffeine will take 8 to 12 hours to metabolize, so having any of that in the afternoon is still going to be in your system when you wish to fall asleep.
8 to 12 hours.
We're also, many are sedentary, And by not moving every day, your body is not going to sleep as deeply. I mean, early humans would do 3 hours a day of exercise, and they felt great all day, and then they slept deeply. And then a big mistake that we're making is that we're really exposed to light too late at night. I'm always asking every client, what are they doing 1 hour before they want to go to sleep?
Right.
To see if they're doing anything that's inadvertently having an impact. And many, about 90% or more, are looking at screens, a computer screen or a TV, you know. What happens, though, is that light, an hour before you go to sleep, it's going to stimulate your pineal gland and suppress melatonin. So it's tricking the brain to thinking it's the afternoon when it's been dark for many hours. So for 20 years of my practice, I would always recommend to anybody who wants to fall asleep faster and sleep deeper, 1 hour before you go to sleep would be a better time to listen to music, listen to an audio book, or a podcast, or a TED Talk without looking at the screen, or read, but illuminate what you're reading with a candle or a soft book light so your eyes aren't taking any light in.
Makes a lot of sense, right.
And to expand on that, 8 years ago or so, I discovered this company called Photonic Developments that took the science and the research that revealed it's just the blue wavelength within the light spectrum that stimulates the pineal gland, suppressing melatonin.
Oh, really?
They make these natural sleep aids, which is the only thing I even sell in my entire practice. I have one, both of them with me now. One is a simple amber-colored light bulb.
And what color does that turn when you put it on?
It's like an orange, amber-colored. There's no blue pigment coming through. And this would be the only light you'd want on 1 hour before you want to go to sleep to illuminate anything you want to see.
Okay, so you can read by this.
Fantastic. Our daughters, since they've been born, the only light that they know of close to bedtime, probably half an hour before we go to get them to bed, is this kind of light.
Wow.
So we would read to them with this light. My wife would breastfeed when they were babies with this light. When they go into the bathroom, this light would be one of the lights they'd have on when they brush their teeth just before they go to bed. We would bring this wherever we go on vacations. And then they also make these glasses that if you had to look at a computer or a TV or you need a light on to navigate your home 1 hour before you want to go to sleep, you can wear these glasses and they'll block the blue wavelength and you'll maximize melatonin and you'll fall asleep faster and you'll sleep deeper. And they work.
That seems so amazingly simple to find the problem and very scientific. You can't fall asleep with the serotonin. And then you get something to block, and they found out it was just the blue light.
Yep.
That's wonderful. How do people get these?
Well, in my practice, I loan them to my clients first. And the company sells them for $80 or $9 to get shipped. I will sell them only after my clients borrow them until I see them a week and a half later for their second session, and then they tell me they want it. About 2 out of 3 people keep them. And of the 1 out of 3 that don't, it's usually because they are just going to modify their behavior and just not look at screens. That's the takeaway they get from my conversation with them, or they'll use that bulb instead to read. But they work. I've been using these things myself for about 8 years now. And if I'm going to add new content to my website to the last possible minute, I have those glasses on, and I'm able to just shut off the computer and go right to sleep. And I know what would happen if I didn't have it on. I would be working later. And it's a mistake that so many people are doing, and they don't even understand that they could fall asleep faster, they could sleep deeper. Even if they're not presenting with that challenge, they're not sleeping as efficiently. They're never going to sleep as deeply. And it's kind of like foreplay for sleep. You know, you want to just allow yourself to have melatonin flow naturally. And it's a good thing.
Very, very fascinating. And so I know that, you know, when you're younger, you need more sleep, and when you're older, you don't need as much. What are the numbers?
Okay, well, infants, you know, are going to need a lot of sleep. Okay, so they might need 12 hours sleep at night. Maybe it's consolidated, maybe it's not, and an additional hour and a half or so. When they become a toddler, they're going to need 12 hours, which could be 10 and a half at night, and then an hour and a half nap in the middle of the day. That works for a lot. Once you get to the age around six or maybe even 5, depending on the individual, you'll need 10 and a half hours.
Still.
Teenagers, well, around 11 or 12, they'll get by with 9 hours. And typically, adults until you're 24 years old, you're still going to need 9 hours. Adults past 24 frequently need 9 hours, but we typically need 7.5 hours after that. and we're not getting it. We're just not getting it.
It's just, it makes, I can imagine it makes everybody's life less efficient
Oh yeah.
because you're not at your optimal capacity.
Employers are getting this now, and when I do my corporate wellness seminars, I'm always impressing upon the HR department and the management there that whatever you could do to allow your workforce to come in better rested, it's going to be a wonderful thing for you. First of all, they're going to be healthier, so they're going to have lower health care costs and premiums. It's going to be less absenteeism. They're going to get sick less. If they get sick, they're going to recover faster because they're going to have a stronger immune system. And the smart companies are being flexible now. Like, they're going to ask some of their employees, like, where are you commuting from? How long does it take you to get in? I know the job is starting at 8:30 and finishing at 4:30, but would 9:30 to 5:30 be better for you? And if the company is different, then you should always be looking out for your employees because they're going to be happier. They're going to like working for you more.
Right, and they're going to be more effective.
Yeah, and a lot of times people are working at home too.
Right.
I mean, the commute time, the average I think in this country is about 35 minutes, but many people are taking well over an hour to come in, and they're exhausted coming in, they're just not feeling good all day, and then they're driving home exhausted, and that's dangerous.
That is, yeah, so many people falling asleep at the wheel. Isn't that one of the #1 killers?
Yes.
Mm.
More so
Yes,
than
yes.
driving while intoxicated is driving while exhausted.
Exactly.
And it would be great if we can measure
Exhaustion.
Yeah, it's doable. We should do that.
Yeah, it'd be nice if the police, but usually by the time you talk to the police, you're pretty wide awake. Yeah. Okay, and is it possible to sleep too much?
Yeah, sometimes, especially if people are going through depression,
Yeah.
they're sleeping longer than they should be, and they don't want to face the world and they want to stay in bed too
Right.
long. And yes, people can sleep too long, but generally the challenge we have is that people are not getting enough sleep.
Okay.
And one way of knowing is, do you use an alarm clock? That's the question I ask everybody. Do you use an alarm clock to wake up? And if they're reporting that they are, then you know that they're not getting enough sleep, because whatever time they would wake up in the absence of an alarm clock is how much sleep they need. It's not like a negotiable thing. And then you'll see them often sleeping longer on weekends to make up for it. And you can never make up for that sleep deficit. You could just get more sleep on those other days, and so
Right.
those other days, Saturday and Sunday, you feel better. And unfortunately, when you need to be most sharp and focused and alert during the week for your job, you're not. And then on the weekends, you're sleeping longer, and you're going to be more on, but you're not performing on those weekends.
Right. As a hypnotist, how can you help people with their sleep issues?
Well, in a hypnotic state, when we're more suggestible, we're more receptive to suggestions, making suggestions that one could just fall asleep fast, sleep deeply, and relax is going to be helpful. Usually I'm going to make suggestions with the hypnosis that one can shelf the day's concerns, put it away, so they don't have to be thinking about that, and that they could just feel so drowsy, so calm, so comfortable, they can't help but fall asleep and sleep deeply. So it's the power of suggestion in hypnosis. Because a lot of people have a lot of things racing on their mind all the time. They're not always negative thoughts. They just, because sometimes it could be happy things, a new job, and they're thinking about such wonderful things, or a vacation. But usually it's something that's negative, or they're ruminating about something, the past, because they're not dealing with those issues during the day.
Right.
Because during the day, you could have other things that you're doing. You're working, you're playing with your kids, you're with your family, you're on a date, you're dancing, or watching movies. But then later on, then you want to relax, you want to go to sleep. You might be tired, but now those thoughts are creeping up. So I help people to be able to control those thoughts, to make them more positive, put the day's concerns away, and just relax, and help people to cope better during the day with stress too. Because if you're coping better during the day, you're going to sleep better at night.
When a person comes in and meets with you, would walk me through a session if they say, because clearly it worked for me, but are people, when they come to you and they say that they have a trouble falling asleep, you can give them the amber light and the glasses.
Well, I ask them a lot of questions. Before they even come in, they're given a lengthy intake form via email. So I know about their health habits. So I know about their caffeine consumption and sugar and exercise and alcohol and water and their sleep habits too. And I go over each one of those things one by one, and I use as a metaphor working with every client that an artist working with a piece of clay can mold beautiful pieces of artwork and can make marvelous sculpture. But if that clay is too wet, you don't get things to stick. So that's why I always like to go beyond the tool of hypnosis to help people to achieve their goals. I want to see if there's anything inadvertently acting as an impediment to that. So as far as sleep is concerned, I already covered a couple of those things. Eating late at night is not a good thing.
Right.
Even drinking 1 drink of alcohol within 3 hours of going to sleep is not a good thing. It's a sedative, it'll help knock you out, it's a relaxant, but it's going to make for more wakeful sleep. It's going to interfere with that REM sleep. So you're never going to be as well rested on 1 drink, even worse if you have more than 1 drink.
And that's funny because it does make you tired, but you don't sleep.
You're not going to sleep as well. 1 could be okay, and just more than 1, usually it's going to be worse. And also, we're not exercising enough. 2 out of 3 Americans are far deficient in exercising, and that's a problem. You know, we're just like other mammals. We would be normally moving around all the time, and then at night you'd fall asleep. I know for myself, when I sleep the deepest, absolute deepest, is when I got a lot of exercise. And I exercise every day, but I'm talking if I did 3 hours of swimming in the ocean, that my sleep is just so phenomenal the next day, and you feel great. I covered the caffeine. You know, also another mistake, drinking a lot of water is very good, but drinking within an hour of going to sleep when you're a little older is not, it's not going to be so good for you, because during that light stage of sleep, after every hour and a half, you know, because first you fall asleep, you enter the first stage of non-rapid eye movement 1, then non-rapid eye movement 2, then the non-rapid eye movement 3, that deep stage of sleep.
Okay.
Then you have the rapid eye movement, the REM sleep, where you're dreaming. But the whole cycle lasts an hour and a half, and then you're in light stage of sleep. Then it happens all over again. After 3 hours, you're in light stage of sleep, and 4.5 hours, and 6, and 7.5, which is when you're predisposed to wake up naturally if you're an adult past 24. But during that light stage of sleep, if you have a little bladder discomfort, that's enough to awaken you.
Do they ever like just argue with you that they can't sleep more because they don't have the time to do it and they don't prioritize it?
I have to convince them on the merits of getting enough sleep. And they don't understand that, sure, you can always get more work done if you sleep less, but you're not going to be as efficient, you're not going to be as sharp, you're not going to be as focused, you're not going to be as pleasant, you're not going to be as happy, and you're going to die faster. You know, whatever time you wake up. In the absence of alarm clock is how much sleep you need. This is not a negotiable thing. So if you care about productivity, it's worth it. Now, it's one thing if you're an entrepreneur and you're about to launch a new business or, you know, an IPO, and your effort, you know, is more important. You can't delegate certain things. So if in a short run, 6 months, a year, maybe a little bit more than a year, the upside to you working more and more hours might justify the sleep debt for a little bit of time. But it's not a good thing to sustain being sleep deprived day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year.
Do you teach people how to put themselves into a trance and help go to sleep that way, or listen to tapes? Or?
Absolutely. Well, hypnosis is always self-hypnosis. We're just acting as a guide, guiding them to a state they can do all by themselves, and of course they're more suggestible. After I've worked with that client once, usually in that second session, I'm teaching them self-hypnosis, whether they're going to make their own auto-suggestions after doing a little kind of induction in their head or just counting from 10 down to 1, or I give them a recording of the session we just did, and they can listen to that prior to going to bed. So they're always going to get benefit beyond what they're doing when they come to see me.
Yeah. And you're able to individualize plans for each people, each person.
Well, everyone's presenting with different challenges, you know, and sometimes it's just situational. It's just you know, they're looking for the new job and they have some insecurity about getting that new job, and so at that point, obviously, when they get their new job, you know, they're going to feel better, but you want them to feel more confident, more secure, and happier and optimistic during the day, be more positive. So it doesn't help them to be cynical and be negative all the time. And we're going to be right no matter which way we think. So there are many people in the world that are pessimistic and negative all the time, and they could show evidence and proof of why the world is like this and it's crumbling and it's dangerous. And you could find many people that are eternal optimists and positive all the time, and they could talk about all the wonderful things and the splendid things and the glory we have in this world. Either way, you're going to be right. It's better to be right going in the positive way, because that's going to serve you. Yes. You know? And I'm not talking about being naive, but people that are that are, let's say, negative all the time, they think that that's realistic. Okay? They think that that's normal. We should be thinking that way. It's normal to have fear, and be uncomfortable about a lot of uncertainty.
But it's normal to know that it will pass.
Sure.
And that then it won't be a problem for the rest of your life, so the anxiety shouldn't be so severe.
And there's things we could do so that we're calmer and more relaxed to begin with. We shouldn't be consuming sugar. We shouldn't be consuming caffeine. If we do, it should be a very small amount. And we should be exercising every single day. For so many people, the only time that their heart beats fast is because of some fear. And then when that's beating faster, then they're more fearful because, oh my God, my heart's beating fast. It's going to pop out of my chest. And again, hunter-gatherers did 3 hours a day of exercise. They had imminent danger to deal with, and they were certainly coping better running, running around the jungle or wherever they were. But that fight or flight syndrome would serve us. The animal would be lurking. You'd have to fight the animal or run away, and your heart would be fast, and your muscles would tense, your breathing would be shallow. You'd have sweaty palms, but that would be a good fear-based warning mechanism to take action, and everything would go back to normal. Today, when we're feeling fear, it's not an event. There's an interpretation or a story or perception of the event, and then it manifests itself with the reaction of that stress response. Now, in hypnosis, we can help people to feel more positive and relaxed and, and calm and comfortable about that event, just to reframe things.
Right.
But if at the same time, in hypnosis, I'm always motivating and inspiring my clients to exercise every day. If they're doing that naturally, then when your heart's beating fast, that's just like you're salivating and your eyes are blinking. It's unconscious. You're not even thinking about it. It's just a normal thing.
If you could just give the audience a few takeaways on how they can sleep better tonight and how many hours.
Make sure you exercise at least half an hour every single day.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. Everybody listening to these things?
If you're going to consume any caffeine, make sure it's in the morning. Okay. When you eat, chew slowly if you're eating a big meal close to bedtime and finish that earlier. If you're going to have any alcohol, make sure it's 3 hours before you go to sleep, if possible. Okay. And short of having any glasses or one of these light bulbs, just shut off that screen. Use a candle if you have to read or something, or just a book light or so. And if it can't be an hour before, which would be optimal, at least half an hour before, cut the lights.
Campaign you were working on with the teenagers.
Well, unfortunately, about 70% of our nation's teenagers are sleep deprived.
Right.
They need 9 hours. And they're getting on the average about 7 hours. One of the reasons for that is that the average time for the schools to start in the morning for 9th to 12th grade is 8 a.m. What happens is teenagers, as they get older to become teenagers, the natural sleep-wake cycle shifts, where they don't get tired to close to 11 p.m. That's where melatonin's flowing. In order for them to get the 9 hours sleep they need, they'd have to really sleep to 8 o'clock. So when schools are starting in the 7 o'clock hour, this is horrible for them. So about 25% of them are showing up in class. They're exhausted. Their head is down. They can't absorb anything because their short-term and long-term memory are impaired. They're presenting with more ADHD, which is really just poor focus because they're exhausted, more anxiety, more depression. They're also not doing as well in school. The sports teams are doing worse as well. And it's a horrible thing that's going on. I look at it as like child abuse. Asking teenagers to be at school in the 7 o'clock hour is just so dangerous, and I don't think there's a greater reform we can make for high school education than allowing them to get 9 hours sleep or giving them an opportunity to have that shot. And it's impossible right now. So there's a national organization called Start School Later. I started the 16th chapter in America in Rockland County, where I live. And we now have 55 chapters. And all across the nation, wherever the schools are moving their start time to a later time, hopefully 8:30, which is what the American Academy of Pediatrics recommended 2 years ago, that no high school in our nation starts before 8:30, that wherever that's happening, grades are going up, there's less car accidents, less late days, less sick days, everything is better.
Wow.
And so this is something I'm pushing within my county and our other chapter leaders are doing in their county, in their towns, in their school districts around the nation, and it's a phenomenal thing wherever it's happening. So I'm very proud of that.
Oh, it sounds like an excellent organization you've gotten involved in, especially you can tell by how much it's expanding at that rate that it is, that it really is touching a nerve for people. So Jeffrey is the founder of the Advanced Hypnosis Center, so you can always get in touch with him. Okay, well, thank you very much again for coming in and sharing all your wisdom with us. And we will see you next time on Kate's Holistic Healing. And sleep well.
Thanks for having me again.
Thanks for being here.